for transportation of food. It is composed of 4 types of cells. Those cells are seed tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, as well as fibers, bast fibers. So out of these 4 types of cells, seed tubes are known as the conducting elements. They are responsible for transportation of food 2 ways. Xylem transports water in only one direction, that is vertical direction, but phloem transports food in 2 directions, both vertical as well as the horizontal. So ascent of sap. What is ascent of sap? The upward movement of water and minerals from roots to different parts of the plant is known as the ascent of sap. So the upward movement of water and other minerals from the roots to the other parts of the plant, stems, leaves, etc. This is known as the ascent of sap. So many factors are responsible for this ascent of sap, and it occurs in many steps. So let us see what are these 5 factors and what are these 5 steps. So the 5 steps are root pressure, then capillary action, then adhesion cohesion of water molecules, and transpiration pull and transport of the food. So from the roots, the first thing is root pressure. So how does root pressure act? So in the roots there is always osmosis. The part which contacts the soil has greater osmotic pressure. So which is the part that contacts the soil? It is root. So what is osmosis? The movement of water from higher potential to lower potential through a selectively permeable membrane is known as the osmotic pressure. So the osmosis pressure pushes the water to the root hairs. The cells of the root hairs, the roots have small hairy structures. Those are known as the root hairs. Those cells of the root hairs have very thin walls. That means they have a selectively permeable membrane, and from the higher potential to the lower potential, the water moves through the osmotic action. So osmosis pushes the water to the root hairs. So from the soil to the root hairs, due to osmotic action, the water moves and pushes it to the base of the stem, and this osmotic pressure pushes the water to the base of the stem. So osmosis is the movement of water from higher potential to a lower potential via a selectively permeable membrane. That root hairs which are present in the roots have very thin cell walls. So these cell walls have a selectively permeable membrane, and this root pressure pushes the water from the roots to the base of the stem. That is about the root pressure. Next is capillary action. So capillary action is nothing but a physical force. So capillary action is nothing but physical force. Capillaries means nothing but thin tubes which help in transportation of water and minerals. So capillaries are also present in our blood vessels. The blood vessels also have capillaries, thin tubes which help in transportation of water here. So the capillary action here results in the rise up of the water at the base of the stem. So these are thin tube-like structures. The capillaries are thin tube-like structures present in the stem of the plant. So this capillary action is nothing but a physical force which helps in transportation of water from the base of the stem to the upper parts. Next is adhesion cohesion of water molecules. So this water, when it is transported from the base of the stem to other parts of the stem and leaves, it goes in form of pipes-like structure. So xylem helps in transportation of water, right? Xylems are tube pipes-like structures. So when the water is transported via xylem to other parts of the plant, this water has some adhesion cohesion forces between them, which help the water molecules to travel in a straight line in the form of tubes via the xylem. So adhesion cohesion molecules make the column of water molecules. So that is the reason water travels in a column, that is a pipe-like structure, because between the water molecules there are adhesion cohesion bonding forces, and water travels via xylem, right? Next is transpiration pool. So you know that the excess water in the leaves will be evaporated into the atmosphere. How sunlight helps in creating a suction and a vacuum, and thereby a transpiration pool pulls the water to the above atmosphere. So that is the reason, due to the transpiration pool, the water reaches the top parts of the plant. So due to transpiration pool, the water reaches the top parts of the plant. Transpiration is nothing but loss of water in the form of water vapor from the leaves. Where is water stored in the leaves? In the stomata. So from the stomata, a suction-like pool will be created, a vacuum will be created, due to which the water will be pulled. So the transportation of water creates a transpiration pool. Loss of water vapor creates a suction, a vacuum that helps in pulling of water from the lower part to the top parts of the plant. So that is transpiration pool. Next is transportation of food. So transportation of food occurs via phloem in two directions, both in vertical direction as well as the horizontal direction. So this transportation of food occurs with the help of utilization of energy. Okay, energy which is present in the form of carbohydrates, sugars, so sucrose. This helps in transportation of food to different parts of the plant. The ATP, energy means ATP, and the ATP is known as the energy currency of the cell, right? So this ATP, this energy helps the transportation of food to all parts of the plant, and transportation of food occurs via phloem and in two directions. Unlike xylem transports water in only single direction, vertical direction, but phloem transports water in both directions. So that is how transportation of food occurs. Next life process we see is transportation. So in this transportation we will see how the blood is transported to various parts of the body. So first we will see about the transportation in human beings, that is ourselves. So transportation is nothing but the total circulatory system. The circulatory system is responsible for the transport of various substances in the body. So transportation is composed totally of the circulatory system, and circulatory system function is to transport various substances to all parts of the body. So what does it transport? The circulatory system, blood, mainly transports food, oxygen, food in the digested form it transports, and then oxygen during the respiration process, waste materials in our body. So all these things blood transports in the circulatory system. So this circulatory system is totally composed of four things, that is heart, arteries, veins and blood capillaries. So this arteries and veins are together known as the blood vessels. So circulatory system is composed of four things: heart, arteries, veins and capillaries. So arteries and veins together make up the blood vessels of the circulatory system. So the first organ is heart. So heart is known as the pump of the body. So if even the heart stops functioning for 1 minute, you cannot survive. Heart is one of the vital organs of the body. That is the most important organ of the body. The other vital organs are brain, livers, kidneys, etc. So heart is one of the vital most organ of the body. It is the pump. It acts like a pump of the body. So heart is a muscular organ. It is made up of cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is a type of smooth as well as a skeletal muscle. So these type of muscles you have studied in 9th standard, right? So cardiac muscle is an example of smooth muscle as well as the skeletal muscle. So heart is made up of smooth muscle called cardiac muscle, and this muscle is involuntary, not in your control. You cannot control the action of this muscle, right? So the size of the heart is so small that it is of a fist size. This is known as your fist. So this is the size of the heart, very small. So it is so small that it can fit inside an adult's fist. So this is a fist. So this is the heart is the size of a fist. So heart is a pumping organ which pumps the blood, right? So heart is mainly divided into 4 chambers. These 4 chambers are right auricle or right atrium. Auricle or atrium means the same. Then right ventricle, left auricle or left atrium, and left ventricle. So what are the functions of these 4 chambers? Why is heart divided into 4 chambers? So these 4 chambers prevent the oxygen-rich blood from mixing with the blood containing carbon dioxide. So our body usually carries 2 types of blood, one filled with oxygen and one filled with carbon dioxide. So these 4 chambers prevent the mixing of these 2 types of blood. That is the reason the heart is divided into 4 chambers. Then ventricles. So 2 are ventricles and 2 are auricles. Auricles are thick-walled. Ventricles are thick-walled. So why are ventricles thick-walled? Ventricles are thick to muscular walled because they pump blood to the various organs of the body. Ventricles receive the blood from auricles and pump into various organs of the body. That is the reason they are thick-walled, so that they prevent any damage or any trauma to those ventricles. So valves ensure that blood doesn't flow back when it valves ensure that there are many valves also in this total heart. So what is the function of these valves? These valves ensure that blood doesn't flow back in the process of contraction and relaxation of these auricles and ventricles. That is the function of the valves of the heart. So how does the blood flow in the heart? What is the schematic presentation of flow of the blood? Oxygen-rich blood from the lungs comes and enters the left atrium. So oxygen-rich blood comes from the lungs, and then left atrium relaxes and receives this blood. So left atrium relaxes and receives the blood, oxygen-rich blood from the lungs. After receiving the blood, it contracts and opens into left ventricle and fills the blood into the left ventricle. So oxygen-rich blood comes into the left atrium when it contracts. After left atrium is filled with blood, it relaxes and sends the blood to left ventricle. And then after left ventricle is filled with blood, it contracts and pumps the blood to all parts of the body. So that is how oxygen-rich blood is flowed. Then deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood from the lungs comes to the right atrium. So this right atrium expands and receives the deoxygenated blood, and then after receiving the blood, it contracts. It expands to receive the blood. After it is filled with blood, it contracts and then it dilates. Right ventricle dilates and receives this blood from the right atrium. Deoxygenated blood reaches the right atrium. From right atrium, it goes into the right ventricle. As the right ventricle dilates, it receives the blood, and then from the right ventricle, the blood goes to the lungs for oxygenation process. So deoxygenated blood via right atrium and right ventricle goes to the lung for the oxygenation process. System of the blood. It is composed of heart. This is the regular view of the heart. So heart, arteries and veins. These red color ones are totally arteries. These blue color ones are totally veins. Okay, arteries carry oxygen-rich blood. Veins carry deoxygenated blood. And circulatory system is composed of heart, arteries and veins. Arteries and veins together known as the blood vessels. And then heart is also composed. Circulatory system is also composed of blood capillaries. So the veins of each of the organ is very much different. So the hand is supplied by different types of arteries and veins. Same way, main veins of the head and neck are very much different than those of the arteries. And the blood which flows in our body is composed of many types of cells like lymphocytes, eosinophils, leukocytes, neutrophils, red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles, platelets, like that. So blood is composed of different types of cells. And then the teeth. Below your teeth you have gums, right? These gums also have the supply of blood. There are many blood vessels which supply the blood to the gums, which these gums help the teeth to keep. These gums help the teeth to function properly. Till there is blood supply to the teeth is said to be alive. If the teeth is dead, if the teeth is discolored, then there